Okay, this is our saying for the day, our affirmation. We repeat this 3 times. God is love,
and therefore so am I. God is but love, and therefore so am I. God is but love, and therefore so am I.
Announcements? Okay, we have a prayer team that Judean's leading, and we used it recently, and Dave, right over there, is the result of that. He was recovered very soon, and he's in much better shape. Also, if we need any help in our spiritual community for rides to doctors or something like that, for food or anything like that to get from the grocery store, see Debbie Squires back there, and she can get that together for you. Men's lunch is Friday at Randy's Southside Diner. That's down in Orchard Mesa on M50, or US 50, I mean. And then women's lunch is at McAllister's on Friday, the 27th at 12:30.
That's
Okay. And coming up, we got Judean next week and the Power of Zeal. And then Debbie Squires is going to talk about her unity journey. And then Jolene Asker is coming the 19th of November. Also, Maria Felipe has a 9-week course. We get a 30% discount for it. Get with Judy and coordinate that, and then we'll go from there. Okay, the directory is back there, and if you want to be on our email list, new people, just put your email address on that paper back there, and we'll get you squared away. Our prayer is memories from November 1st of 2021. Much of us remember faces, and that's what we remember of our loved ones, whether they're here with us or past. I am grateful for my memories. Today I remember the dear souls who enriched my life through their unique contributions. I am grateful for the memories of precious experiences and heartfelt connections. Even though I have relatives and friends who have passed from earthly life, their love and presence are still in my heart. Connections I've made through the years make my life rich and fulfilling. Some memories may bring tears, while others may bring a smile and even a laugh. No matter which memories arise, I honor their nurture myself as I reflect upon them. I am grateful for the treasured memories, for all the people whose love and wisdom support my guidance and have shaped me. Each one has helped me become who I am. I thank my God every time I remember you. From Philippians 1:3. And now let's center ourselves and bring to mind those that are dear to us, that need help in any way, and also where they bring the divine spirit to make them whole and happy.
Well, thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And Debbie, it's such a treasure to see you even over Zoom. And thank you for that lovely introduction. Thank you for giving my name to Judean, and thank you both for hiring me to do this morning. So welcome, everybody. And I'm going to just dive right in. And whoever chose the music just did a phenomenal job, because I'm talking today about the faces of God. And I think that's the most glorious calling we have, is to be faces of God, to actually live our innate divinity so fully that our very presence, on good days or bad days, whatever, will emanate the love and the goodness of God. Just think of that. Our very presence, your very presence, will emanate the glory, the goodness, the presence of our loving divine spirit. So since that's our higher calling, I'm going to start right out and say, how well are we doing with this? I think you don't have to answer it, but I just think it's really good to ask ourselves that questions. Are we really emanating the divine spirit? Are we really, through our words, our actions, our deeds, reflecting the divine? Because to be genuine reflections of that divine, what we need to do is live in accordance with that divine nature. Like you've probably heard that a million times. God is love. And then in this infinite God, there are no human words to describe God, but the best we've come up with, the best I've ever found so far, is love. So I'm going to start with this basic quote from the Bible, and I'd like to build my whole talk on this. I don't know, do you have a handout or do you have a slide, or am I just reading it to you? Or I don't know, you have a handout. Oh, great. And thank you, Judian. Okay, and this is a quote that has I've used two different interpretations, the New American Bible, and AMP stands for amplified. And if you've never looked at the Amplified Bible, you can check it out online. I think it's really cool because it does just that. It takes one simple quote and it gives you lots of other words that might unlock the key to that quote for you. So it says this, and we know, and it doesn't mean intellectually, it means we understand, or we experience, or we believe and rely upon the love God cherishes for us. God is love, and he who abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him, her, all of us. In this union and communion with God, this merging with God, love attains perfection in us. As spirit is, so are we in this world. As God is, so are we in this world. I don't know about you, my friends, but that statement just takes my breath away. Think about that. What an enormous calling. As God is, as spirit is, so are you in this world right now. That's our calling. And we've probably heard God is love, God is love, God is love a million times. We don't even pay attention to it anymore. But I'd like to suggest, my friends, that these are not just nice words. As that quote just makes clear, we are called to experience the absolute, utter, intimate reality of God's love. And then in doing that, we can rely upon that love. We can become that love. That quote just says, God cherishes you. God cherishes you. Is that a reality in your life? Do you know, do you experience, do you understand, do you rely upon that sweet cherishing that our divine spirit has for you? And I don't mean as a group, I mean individually for each of you. That's called to be your experience. And whether or not we've ever experienced it, that's okay. We all just have the opportunity to take our next step in that direction. And the direction we're taking is such union, such communion with that divine love, that that love will just naturally exude forth from us. So the premise of my talk today is that love is the key quality beyond all others that's going to help us be faces of God, to express that love of God. And that's why, I don't know about you, but for me, it's always been easiest to most recognize God in faces that have been loving to me. So now I'd like to share with you one very, very, very special face that was one of the first faces of God in my life. Can you see this? This is my puppy, Sam. So Sam's going to take a key role in my talk this morning. We got Sam when I was about 11 years old, and he's a face of God for me because he taught me about love and unbelievable healing. So let me give you a little bit of background. Before we got Sam, I'd had so many terrible encounters with dogs. They always seemed to chase me. I'd never been actually bitten, but I had been attacked and scratched, and I was terrified of dogs. And it was a common family ritual in my house that my family after dinner would try to go for a bike ride. So that's my mom and dad and 4 kids. And I guarantee you, if there was an angry dog anywhere on our route, that dog came to no one but me. I was chased off my bike so many times I couldn't even count. And one time a German Shepherd came after me, and I literally thought I was going to die. So fortunately, my dad was able to successfully intervene and chase the dog away, and I wasn't not even bitten by this dog. But I made up my mind right then and there. Now, this is the tender age of 9 or 10. I want you to get this. I made up my mind I was never, ever going to ride my bike again. And I was never even going to walk out of my house again any distance because I was so terrified of dogs. So I made my decision I was going to stay home. I can semi laugh about this now, but to be homebound at the tender age of 9 or 10 is ridiculous. But I was so paralyzed by my fear of dogs and my experiences with dogs that that was the only choice that I thought I had. So my parents sought out help unbeknownst to me, and whoever they contacted told them the only way to get me over my fear of dogs was to get a dog for our house. I'm like, not only no, but hell no. And I know I couldn't say that to my parents, but I did not want a dog. And they didn't push, fortunately, but they said if I ever changed my mind, I could pick out the puppy. And I thought, yeah, fat chance. I'm never having a dog. So one day I went to a birthday party, and for some reason, I was late getting to that party, and Kilpatricks were never late, but that day I was. So the girls were all out on a scavenger hunt. So the mom of the host of the party said, "Oh, Jean Marie, there's a bunch of puppies out in the garage. Why don't you just go play with the puppies until the girls get back?" And I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't want to play with puppies, but okay, that's what the lady told me to do. So I'm going to go out there, and I kept a very safe distance from the puppies. But when I finally got up my courage to walk over to this pen where the puppies were, that's where I met, oh, God became incarnate in my life. I looked into those eyes, or I should say, he looked into mine, and I had the most instantaneous healing I have ever had in my entire life. That dog, I have no idea what it was other than love, but that dog changed me forever. So when I went home, I told my parents that I had picked out a puppy, and I couldn't wait to introduce them to the new puppy and to the new Jean Marie, because honest to God, I just literally became a new person. They were astonished, but thrilled. So we got the puppy, and we lived happily ever after. Sam helped me become bigger than my fears, absolutely bigger than my fears, and opened up a whole new world for me. And so I'm sure I'm not alone in that. Can I see a show of hands? Any of you have pets, or you've experienced love for your pets or from your pets? Whether or not you're an animal person, whether or not you use spiritual words for this, I think the point is the same. Dogs are really good at being faces of God. You ever experienced that? Dogs, pets of all kind. I have a friend who has a bird. I can't remember what kind. I think it's a macaw, but she's had this bird for 21 years, and that bird does everything for her that Sam did for me. It doesn't have to be dogs. That's just what I'm most familiar with. So here's just a few reasons why dogs can be such good faces of God, and then we're going to hopefully learn from them. Okay, you've probably heard this before. Dogs wag their tails and not their tongues. Now there's a divine instruction if I ever heard one. Dogs wag their tails, not their tongues. I think Gilda Radner probably said it the best. She said, "I think dogs are the most amazing creatures. They give unconditional love, and they are the role model for being alive." That is what a face of God is, someone who shows unconditional love. On my bulletin board behind me, I have a clipping that says, "Greet everyone as you would greet your dog." That would make you a face of God. But I'd add something to that. Greet everyone as your dog greets you. If we could do that, we would be saints incarnate living right now on this earth. So for me, my little Sam was God in the flesh. And I know many of you feel that way about your pets. I want to share a little from a man named Gene Hill. This is what he said about his dog. "He's told me 1,000 times over that I am his reason for being by the way he rests against my leg, by the way he thumps his tail at my smallest smile, by the way he shows his hurt when I leave without taking him. I think it makes him sick with worry when he's not going to be along to care for me. When I am wrong, he's delighted to forgive. When I'm angry, he clowns to make me smile. When I'm happy, he is joy unbounded. When I'm a fool, he ignores it. When I succeed, he brags. Without him, I'm only another man. With him, I am all powerful. With him, I know a secret comfort and a private peace. He has brought me understanding where before I was ignorant. His head on my knee can heal my human hurts. His presence by my side is protection against my fears of dark and unknown things. He has promised to wait for me whenever, wherever, in case I need him. And I expect I will, because I always have. He is my dog. Isn't that sweet? That just warms my heart. But as sweet as that is, I'm not here to talk about dogs today. I'm just using them to illustrate some of what it means to be faces of God. So now I'm going to take part of that same quote I just read, and all I'm going to do is change the letters dog, D-O-G, to God, G-O-D. I'm just going to reverse it and see if we can come into a greater experience of God with that dog wisdom. When I'm wrong, God is delighted to forgive. Is that your God? When I'm angry, God clowns to make me smile. There's a concept, no judgment, no condemnation. God's cheering us up. When I'm happy, God's joy unbounded. When I'm a fool, God ignores it. When I succeed, God brags. Without God, I'm only another person. With God, I am all powerful. God is devotion. With God, I know a secret comfort and a private peace. God has brought me understanding where before I was ignorant. God can heal my human hurts. God's presence is protection against my fears of dark and unknown things. God has promised to wait for me whenever, wherever, in case I need it. And I know I will, as I always have. This is my beloved God. This is my beloved divine spirit. I don't know about you. I think that's really, really cool. That's intimate, that's present, that's real. And that's what God has called all of us into, that kind of relationship. So let's take a look at some of that dog wisdom and see if we can make tools out of that for us and our spiritual paths. Start with that first line. Without God, I am only another human. Without God, without divinity, without spirit, without truth, I am only another human being stuck in the endless sufferings, the endless limitations of my ego. Without God, the same is true of you, mired together in that yucky mess. That is the tragic state of affairs whenever we choose to live from our egos. Whenever we're choosing to live from what these eyes tell us, from our limited human perceptions, feelings, and beliefs. Why? Bottom line, when we live as an ego, we're living apart from God. When we live as an ego, we're living apart from love. We're living apart from who we really are. And that means we can never, ever, ever, ever be happy. The ego's absolute guarantee is that it can never make us happy. It's going to lie and tell us it can, but the truth, especially in Course in Miracles, takes 1,000 pages to tell us that the ego, the false self, will never, ever make us happy. So as hopeless as that is, and it is totally hopeless, but that's not our only choice, because we can learn to live from love. We can learn to live not just from love, but as love. And that's what it means to be a face of God. So let that love come forth from us so unabashedly, so unashamedly, so confidently that we are exuding God, literally, in every breath we take. Let's look this next quote from Charles Fillmore. Do you all have that one on your papers? Charles Fillmore, as I imagine you know, he's the co-founder of Unity, and he said it this way: if I have found God, I must demonstrate God. Let's just stop right there. You all are, I don't know about Grand Junction, but here in Boulder, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. You could be doing a million other things, yet you've gathered in your church congregation to come to this service, to share with one another, to learn about God, to be God. That's your choice. That's what you're doing. And you're claiming to have found God or wanting to find God. And then Charles Fillmore is saying, okay, darling, Jean Marie, if you're finding God, you need to demonstrate God. And how do we do that? God is love. We become loving, Charles says, by permitting that which Spirit is, God is, to find expression in our words and our actions. That's why Fillmore told us to open the floodgates of our love nature. Open the floodgates of our love nature. Course in Miracles talks about all these blocks that we have to love, and that our job is to remove those blocks so that we can open the floodgates of our love nature. So I have a question. Are we willing to do this? Are you willing to do it? I wish I could be there in person and look into your eyes. Each of us get to make that choice. Are we willing to allow that which God is, Spirit is, in us? It's not outside here, it's in us, to have greater expression in our lives. Our souls certainly want us to do that. They know, our souls know, our spirits know, there is zero reason for us to stay stuck in small, suffering, miserable lives. Our souls also know that the key to doing that is remembering who we are as divine beings and then living that way. Are you with me so far? With me? Okay. So we have a choice. We can live miserable lives in the ego, or we can say, no, I want to live from love. I want to learn how to do that more or more often, or maybe for the first time. It doesn't matter. If that's your direction, then that's what this talk is all about, how to support us in making choices to move in that direction. So any day is a good day to do that. Any day is a good day to start making whatever changes we can make that will help you and I be more radiant channels of the divine. And it doesn't have to be done perfectly. It can be just a smile. It can be a hello. It can be I forgive you. It can be a million different ways. But I'm just trying to get the spiritual underlay of truth here that will hopefully inspire us to do it. And I've never been with your church before, but I would imagine that you get consistent reminders about this truth, because this truth is the foundational truth of unity and the spiritual path. I'm just going to focus my remarks on how to use that truth to be faces of God. So let's look at this next quote from A Course in Miracles. You, each one of you are my voice. You are my eyes. You are my feet. You are my hands. Each and every one of you. We practice but an ancient truth. God is but love, and therefore so am I. I was so tickled that Judy or whoever picked that as the affirmation to start with, because that is the bottom line. God, Spirit, divine, is only love. And therefore, that's the truth of each of us as well. So again, you are my voice, my eyes, my feet, my hands. I'm going to add my face. We practice, and it takes practice. We're all doing it. We practice but an ancient truth. God is but love, and therefore so am I. And how exciting that that's what we're called to do. And I'm here to just remind you, my friends, we can do this and we will do this. It's not impossible. It's not airy-fairy out there imagination. It's absolutely guaranteed, not only that it's possible, but that it will happen eventually. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. because as Spirit created us, being the face of God is only natural. We can't help but exude that once we get the obstacles out of the way. So I know I want to make progress on that. If you'd like to join me, I would just like to offer this one simple thing that we can do, each and every one of us, to hasten that process of being an ever brighter face of God. To me, in all of my years of teaching and especially being a spiritual student, this more than anything has helped me. And this is my suggestion, this is my invitation. The very best place to start is to make God, make Spirit, whatever name you call it, and our relationship, our communion, our intimacy with that God, with that divine presence, our number one priority. Let me repeat that. The number one suggestion I would give to anyone on the spiritual path is that the best place to start is to be willing to prioritize the love of God in your life, the love of God for you. I was so tickled when Debbie said something in the introduction that she said it very nicely, but I was kind of, I think she'd know that I'm pretty tough sometimes, but I was stressing how important it is to love yourself. If I can't love myself, I'm not going to love others. And how do I love myself best? I open up and let God love me. Have you ever done that? Have you let God love you? Seriously, my friends, have you ever just said, bring it on, God? I don't know if I'm lovable. I don't feel lovable. I don't feel worthy. I don't even know if you exist, but this crazy lady Jean Marie is suggesting this. So I'm going to be brave and I'm going to try this. Let God love you. The more we let God love us, just like the more I let my little Sam love me, the more love is going to come forth. And the more love comes forth, the more fear has to go away. That's just the promise. We want to become beacons of light and hope and love. And the only way to do that is through living our oneness. Not the only way. The best way to do that is through living our oneness with God, to embody that truth. God is love. Remember the quote I started with? As God is, so are we. As Spirit is, so are we. I think that's the greatest spiritual homework, assignment, destiny, calling in our lives, to so profoundly discover God within us that we can't help but shine that out and be living as faces of God. So how do we do that? We make it our primary goal to do whatever it takes to move in that direction, to be closer to love, to be more reflective of love, to be more devoted and sincere in letting God love me, letting God love you, and then letting God guide you how to do that in the world. Only that experience, and I mean that word experience, nothing any minister says, nothing any master or prophet you read in a book is ever going to change us if we don't have the experience for ourselves. And so I invite you into that experience, or take a step in willingness toward that experience, to let the great God of your being love you, transform you, inspire you, comfort you, heal you. That's how we do the simple dog things. That's how we wag our tails and not our tongues. That's how we greet everyone with love. That's how we live as unconditional love. That is how we do it, by allowing God to love us. I want to say me individually, but I mean it for you, because it's personal. It's not just a global thing. It's personal to each of you. You have a divine presence within you that longs only to love you, to sweeten your life, empower your life, heal your life, and let you feel the power of God moving through you. So in closing, let me just say this. I pray that we'll all choose to support one another in whatever direction, whatever steps we're taking. If we're choosing to be a face of God, I know we can do this. Absolutely, we can be a face of God every single day. Maybe it's something as simple as a smile. But I also understand that sometimes our individual lives are so challenging that we just don't feel like we have it in us to be a face of God for anyone else. We are nurturing our own wounds. We're healing our own grief. That's beautiful. And that is just as much a face of God as anyone else. So maybe if that's the situation you're in, maybe instead of being a face of God to someone else, could I gently suggest that you try to learn to be a face of God to yourself? Maybe by taking the best care of yourself possible. Maybe by asking someone for help. Maybe by asking God for help. Maybe by loving yourself a little more than you could yesterday, and letting that love of God wash all over you, all inside of you, and heal your hurts. Being a face of God takes endless forms. Every single one is beautiful. All of them affirm Spirit's goodness, Spirit's power, alive in you right now. Through just loving ourselves and one another more unconditionally, we will be those faces of God. We will demonstrate, as Charles Fillmore invited us to do, once and for all, the truth that as God is, as Spirit is, so are we. That's why we're on the earth. That is our sacred calling. And amen and amen.
Okay, here we go. Whoop, there we go. Okay, divine love flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am.
Thank you, Dave.
Divine Spirit, thank you for these gifts through your abundance. Guide us in their distribution and spending. Amen.
Amen.